What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. If you joined me on the channel previously, I put out a video talking about a CTV article that was forwarded by Republican Party leader Cam Davies. We talked about how Danielle Smith in that article has the power to essentially move Alberta's referendum question on independence forward without the need for a petition. The government has that ability, and the question was, why are you waiting on citizen-led initiatives? Why aren't you just moving forward? Albertans want to leave. Now's the time. I know that a lot, and one of the things that wasn't discussed in that video is a lot of that is posturing for the Republican Party to try and get votes, or to try to get people on the side of they have the interests in getting Alberta its independence faster or more efficiently than Danielle Smith. One of the quotes that came forward in that article, however, gave me a bit of disdain, and it's something that we talked about on this channel. There was a quote down the article where Danielle had said, "We will not be putting forward a question of independence on a spring ballot." Now, I had said in that video that there was no clarity. We need clarity. We need to be told this is in fact how it's going to happen. And what I pointed out in that video is that you either have a premier saying that our party is not putting forward a vote versus, hey, we're not even going to honor if a citizen-led initiative puts forward a vote because we don't like the optics. We're not going to put it on a spring ballot. So it doesn't matter even if they have the signatures, even if it's a constitutional question. We're not going to put it on a ballot. Clarity is important. Now, in my time that I've spent with Premier Smith, the times she's been on this channel, the times I've spoken with her press people, I have, in fact, before this video, Danielle has been open to the criticism that she receives. In fact, she agrees that most, if not all of our politicians require accountability. You have to question even those that you like. My concern out of that video is that if we don't question, hey, do we get some clarity here? People may leave the independent front. People may move their votes over to another party, which results in vote splitting, which could ultimately lead to Naheed Nenshit being in charge of the province come the next election. There could be a plethora of reasons. One of the things that I did in yesterday's video, on purpose, because I saw it in the comments, I knew it would pop up, was that my title had said that Danielle had shut down independence. Many people, while complaining, hey, Fringe, you're hitting the panic button. You shouldn't be asking these questions. Danielle meant her party, not anybody else. So people made excuses or tried to explain their way out of what Danielle Smith had done without clarity. But very quickly, people pointed into my title and said, hey, Fringe, your title's misleading. It isn't clear. It says that Danielle halted independence. She didn't, in fact. You need to be more accurate with your titles. Do we see the difference there? This is what I'm talking about, is just as people ask for a YouTuber to be clear and concise about the information being shared, we ask the same of our politicians. Whether we like them, hate them, support them, want them to go to the curb and leave the country, go have a lollipop, as Donald Trump says, we have to do our due diligence. I have to do my due diligence as a news provider on YouTube to give you guys facts, to question everything, to hold those in power accountable for things like clarity. I'm happy to report that even before hearing from Danielle's press secretary, Danielle already confirmed a little bit more clearly what was meant and where she 100% unequivocally stands at this point, which is what we needed. Stick with me, because there are some issues that come from this that I do want to talk about, and concerns that I have as to why that previous video was up. And we're going to discuss it here. But first, let's take a look at the Alberta Next panel that happened the other night. Last night, in fact, just really drained on the live stream views because we're competing with Danielle Smith. So no insults taken here. I'm glad Albertans were keeping their eyes on there. I completely forgot that Alberta Next panel was actually happening. But let's take a look at the question that was forwarded to Danielle. Again, the audio seems a little bit low. You'll at least feel that way when you hear The person asking the question, just note that this is the microphone there. It's not the audio here. But let's take a listen to what they have to say. And Danielle's answer, because again, it 100% clarifies where we stand moving forward on independence.
Good evening. On April 28th, the federal Liberals secured a majority government from the rest of Canada by attacking Alberta's best customer, America, and Alberta's resource industries. We all know that there's only one way to change equalization, and that is to get out of the country. The good news for many of us is that victory has led to a resurgence of Western alienation and renewed calls for Alberta's independence. The Alberta Prosperity Project have hundreds of thousands of folks signed up to sign a petition to force a referendum on separation. My sense is that a plurality of Albertans are already committed to voting yes to leaving. Don't wait for the people of Alberta to force your government to schedule a referendum. Millions of people are watching from around the world, hoping and praying that Alberta will become a sovereign nation, which will quickly become a beacon of hope and a blueprint for freedom and prosperity lovers across Canada and around the world. Will you, Premier Smith, schedule a referendum vote for May 1st, 2026? Don't say I didn't ask.
Thank you, sir. There is a process. Premier, do you want to go ahead?
Well, Danny, I knew I could count on you to ask that question. Thanks for being here. I have said from the beginning that I support Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. There's a few reasons for that. And one is that if I want to get a bitumen pipeline to the British Columbia coast, I have to negotiate with British Columbia. And my personal view is that would be easier as part of a united Canada than as a separate country. And so if that is our aspiration, we happen to be a landlocked province. And I'm very encouraged by the fact that the provinces all feel the same frustration that I do at the federal government breathing down their neck and forcing them to pass policies and enact policies in a way that suits federal interests rather than provincial interests. I feel like we've got unity among the premiers like I've never seen before. And so with that behind us, I think that we can change the federation. I'm still working towards that. That's what our process is to try to find ways that we can fix confederation, make it work better, maybe make it work a little bit more like how Europe works, where you have autonomy at the national level, and then there are things that you coordinate on among the member states through the European Union. It's not a perfect example, but there's certainly a lot more autonomy at the national level in Europe. But there are models around the world that I think can work. It's a matter of us trying to rewrite the rules so that we get the federal government back in its lane so we can be in our lane. That's what I'm working towards. If I have those said, that if either of the petition campaigns get enough signatures, that we absolutely will put it on the ballot and we'll let Albertans decide. But I'm waiting to see what happens with that petition campaign.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
So Danielle, again, clarifying 100%. The UCP will not be putting forward a question on independence. And we all knew that. We all knew that that was reality. But that a citizen-led initiative, regardless whether it's Tommy the Commies or whether it's Alberta Prosperity Project, should it garner enough signatures, should it get the approval of the courts, those signatures will matter and they will result in a question on a ballot. Good to know. Again, clarity is important. Now, stick with me, folks, because I do have some concerns out of what Danielle said. We all know, and people, again, I'm on the side of those who have said in the comments, Danielle does have to she does have to work on some form of diplomacy in Canada. She does have to work with the other provinces. She has to work with the mandate she was given. I want to get to the email of Danielle's press secretary just to double verify here for you guys before we get into that. Hey, Derek, to clarify, Alberta's government will not put separation on the ballot themselves, but if a citizen petition on the issue gets the required signatures, then it would be put to a referendum. Makes sense? We wouldn't stop it from being put on the ballot if the citizen petition gets the needed signatures. Of course, this is from Sam Blackett, Danielle's press secretary of the Office of the Premier. So again, we appreciate that. I'm happy to have that clarification. The problem I worry about here, folks, and the reason for that other video, the reason we have to question everything, is that if there's anything we've learned from previous elections, it's that there seems to be a sense of politician worship, idol worship, when it comes to the enamoration that people have for certain individuals when they're willing to speak up, when they're willing to stand behind the values of conservative Canadians. The thing that I worry about is that sometimes if we don't question everything, we sometimes make excuses for the behavior without clarity. That it definitely tones down our credibility, at least on this channel, if I don't call it out. It tones down the credibility of my bias. But it also takes down the credibility of the Premier if we all just kind of sweep it under the rug and say, we're not going to question it, we're not going to ask for clarity. Clarity, again, is important. One of the things I worry about that Danielle made in that statement was, again, is working with within a sovereign Canada. Working with premiers, seeing them united. How's that working out so far? We have a deadline coming up, October 1st. A deadline for Danielle's 12 asks of a Carney government. Now, keep in mind, she said that no matter who took the office, whether it was Pierre, whether it was Mark Carney, she had 12 demands. Let's go through everything from Rise of Alberta. Great X account, by the way. In March, Danielle Smith gave Mark Carney 6 months to act or face a national unity crisis. Her demands were clear. Repeal Bill C-69, lift the BC tanker ban, scrap the oil and gas emissions cap, end clean energy regulations, reverse the single-use plastics ban, end the net zero car mandate, return carbon tax oversight to the provinces. I'm going to have a story about carbon tax coming up very soon. Keep your eyes out for that one. Guarantee Alberta export corridors in all directions, no export taxes or restrictions on Alberta oil and gas, end subsidies from Alberta to other provinces, stop censoring energy companies, fix Ottawa's mismanagement of Jasper and Banff national parks. It's now been 5 months. Carney hasn't delivered on a single one. The only path left is Alberta independence. The question is, when Carney fails, what will Danielle Smith do? And of course, we see the demands here on the list. This is the issue, that we're quickly approaching that 6-month mark. We talked about this on last night's live stream. The Celtic Canuck had a very good point when she said, if Danielle does nothing October 1st, if she doesn't show teeth or dig her heels into the ground a little bit, at least, it discredits her threat. It discredits everything she came forward with, saying that Alberta's a major team player. We demand to be taken seriously. We have a list of demands in order to work within a sovereign Canada. You need to follow up on these. Another fellow channel on YouTube that is a good friend of the channel, John Bolton, had a video recently saying that, look, Mark Carney's talking about this deal from Alberta to Churchill. It's one project out of hundreds that Alberta, that Saskatchewan have. Albertans don't want one project. Mark Carney's going to posture around to feel like, hey, we threw you a bone, we gave you some scraps, be happy with it. One of two things can happen come October 1st, because we know none of these 12 rules, or these 12 demands, I should say, from Danielle Smith are going to go answered. Even if a pipeline is put through. If Danielle reacts poorly and says, oh, look, everybody, we're working within a sovereign Canada, everything's fine, everything's going to be fine, and she ignores these 12 demands, it's going to end badly for Danielle. If Danielle doesn't show some teeth, it's going to end badly amongst Albertans for Danielle. What's required here isn't for Danielle to stand forward and talk about independence. She doesn't have to stand and say, look, we're separating, that's it. What she has to do is the same thing that Mark Carney has done from the get-go, and that's say, hey, listen, I tried to work with you guys. I really did. I did everything I could. You now have a unity crisis on your hands. We have petitions going out in our province talking about independence. We've allowed that to go through. Good luck. Mark Carney has done the same thing when it comes to pipelines. All the projects that Danielle's demanding. Well, listen, we have to look at First Nations. We have to allow 100% agreement across the board between First Nations, provinces, premiers. red tape. I'm happy to build all these things, but you got to understand everybody has to be in agreement. He's washing his hands of it. Danielle will have to do the same thing October 1st if she wants the government to take us seriously. One of the things, and again, stick with me here, folks, because this analogy should put it into perspective. I've often said that Justin Trudeau, when he went to Mar-a-Lago, showed Donald Trump our cards. If you're playing a poker game, Donald Trump asked, what happens if we stop contributing the money that we do to Canada? What would happen to Canada? Trudeau ultimately says, well, it would collapse. You showed Donald Trump your cards. Mark Carney did the same thing when he went to the White House, when he spoke with Donald Trump on multiple occasions, trying to broker a deal, if you can call it that, on the tariffs. It was very laughable. Ideally, Carney would dig his heels in the sand and then wait until the 11th hour, and he'd sit by the phone hoping Donald Trump would call him to renegotiate some form of a halt on tariffs so that Mark Carney could drag his feet again and say, well, we're going to negotiate something, push back, and then again, wait for the 11th hour on D-Day. It didn't work out well for him. In fact, he showed Donald Trump his cards because every time they talked about the digital services tax, anytime they talked about anything that got in the United States way, rightfully so, it was squashed by Donald Trump. Carney bent over. His elbows went from up to completely down and around his ankles. And, well, we're in the situation we're in now thanks to that. Showing your cards at the table is never a good thing, but if Alberta was sitting at the table, playing poker right now with the Canadian federal government, what they have to realize is that based on GDP, based on what Alberta contributes to the rest of the country, and people always say, hey, you think you're so great, Alberta's the #1 contributor to GDP in the country. Danielle Smith is holding a royal flush at the table while Mark Carney is holding nothing more than a pair of twos. It's time for Danielle to read the room, and it's time for Danielle, come October 1st, to say, we're holding a royal flush and we're going to start going all in rather than seeing their other bets and raising the ante. It's time to put all the chips in the middle and say, if you don't want to work with us, there's nothing I can do. It's out of my control. Mark Carney will be the last Prime Minister of Canada. Independence is the only way forward. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you want to see Danielle throw her chips in the middle and go all in? Do you think it's time that we stop bluffing with the rest of the country? It really hasn't done well for us so far. Maybe it's time to switch tracks. Maybe it's time October 1st, things change. Let me know if you're glad to see that Danielle was clear. Let me know if you're still mad at me, if you still think I'm a jerk for questioning Danielle. I really don't care. You don't have to put that in the comments. Look, I got a job to do. I'm doing it on the channel. Like it or hate it. That's the name of the game. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't, or if you clicked off of it yesterday with the video. Join me live here on the channel Wednesday and Friday nights for Unhinged Fringe on Wednesdays, Friday Night Fringe on Fridays, where I'm joined by a plethora of new co-hosts, as well as the beautiful Mrs. Fringe on Fridays, as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I always look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this week, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, both Wednesday and Friday, I should say, on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.